right. What else did I want to mention today? Oh, yeah. Jared Kushner. This little shit. Oh, he's not so little. He's another one. He looks like, no offense to funeral directors, but Jared Kushner looks like an undertaker. We don't use that term anymore, do we? I swear to God, he does. He just has that pasty. It's not pale. It's just a pasty white person look that you occasionally see in white people. That to me is scary as hell. When I've seen pictures of Jared Kushner, I can imagine always that his hands are always cold and clammy, right? That he has stinky breath. I do the ad hominem attacks, don't I? Anyway, Jared Kushner. This is what Donald Trump, Kushner's poisonous father-in-law, said to Bob Woodward when Woodward was interviewing Trump for Woodward's latest book. This is what Trump said, quote, "I saved his ass. I was able to get Congress to leave him alone. I was able to get them to stop," end quote. Now, he was bragging, the orange vomit, this filthy Donald Trump was bragging to Woodward about the lengths he went to prevent Congress from holding the Saudi crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, accountable for the brutal murder and dismemberment of the U.S.-based journalist who worked for the Washington Post, Jamal Khashoggi. Now, this is reported today by Judd Legum at Popular Information, the website I've suggested you go to. And as Judd points out, we all know that Trump is a bullshitter from the word go, but in this case, his account is completely accurate. If you remember, it was October 2nd, 2018, and Khashoggi, who at the time was a columnist for the Post, who was critical of the Saudi regime, was assassinated at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. And he had gone there to obtain papers for an upcoming wedding. Jesus. While he was there, he was forcibly restrained by Saudi agents. He was injected with a fatal dose of a drug, and after they had rendered him dead, his body was hacked up with a bone saw, chunks and pieces. Now, please keep in mind that the Saudi regime, Democrats and Republicans in this country, have been supporting, in this country, our country, have been supporting these fucking monsters for decades. And there's a simple reason why. It's a 3-letter word, oil. That's all, oil. The Saudi royal family is composed of pimps, liars, fuckheads, thieves, murderers, religious fanatic, nutfucks. And just about every goddamn man in Saudi Arabia is somehow related. Prince this and prince that. And they get away with everything. The royal family, as huge as it is. But these are murderous son of a bitches. These are another group of subhumans, just like the Russians. Christ, every place you turn, you see these scum. Now, the role of the Saudi royal family, royal, my goddamn ass. The Saudi royal family had a role in the assassination that was apparent from the beginning. Why? Because it occurred inside the Saudi consulate in Turkey. Jesus Christ. Well, it was other people, huh? And in November 2018, according to Judd, here I'm quoting liberally from Judd's piece called The Big Payback. I'll get to what's his name, Jared, in a moment. But in November 2018, a month later, the CIA concluded that MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, ordered this murder and dismemberment. And how did they come to those conclusions? Well, the CIA, because of intercepts of the Crown Prince's phone calls in the days before the killing, and calls by the kill team to a senior aide to the Crown Prince. And the Biden administration formally released a declassified version of this intelligence in February a year ago. Now, it doesn't make any difference. Trump was clear that he was uninterested in holding bin Salman or the Saudi government accountable for this brutal murder and dismemberment. Because, Trump had business plans with the Saudis. And Trump is just a rotten zombie himself. And on November 20th, 2018, 2 months after this brutal murder, the Orange Vomit issued a lengthy statement saying that the United States' priority was maintaining good relations with a murderous bunch of fucking gangster vampires. Well, he didn't say that. He said the Saudi government. This is part of Trump's statement. Listen to this bullshit. Quote, "It could very well be that the Crown Prince had knowledge of this tragic event. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. That being said, we may never know all of the facts surrounding the murder of Mr. Jamal Khashoggi. In any case, our relationship is with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The United States intends to remain a steadfast partner of Saudi Arabia to ensure the interests of our country." End quote. Once again, one word, oil. In Trump's case, 2 words, oil, money. And Trump was real serious about this. A year later, May 2019, the administration of the Orange Vomit announced it was going to bypass Congress, fuck Congress, and send $8 billion in weapons to Saudi Arabia and Saudi Arabia's close ally, the United Arab Emirates. And a bipartisan majority in Congress passed legislation that said no, and Trump vetoed it, and the sale went through. And of course, when Trump was just a stumble-bum fuck who wasn't president, he spent years criticizing people who were president for being too solicitous to the Saudis. But once Trump saw a way to make some money, oh, fuck all that, right? So what happened? Well, here's what happened. Trump placed his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, in charge of Middle East policy. Do you remember that? This fucking slumlord, this punk-ass funeral director-looking asshole, undertaker-looking jerk, was put in charge of Middle East policy. Now, granted, Kushner's an Orthodox Jew. So what do you suppose that meant? Well, if he's a real Orthodox Jew, he doesn't believe that the state of Israel exists. Because the ultra-Orthodox will tell you, no. Only the Messiah, when he returns, can establish the state of Israel. But aside from that, Kushner had other goals for the U.S.-Saudi relationship, mainly enriching himself and his bitch of a wife. This is what happens when grifter families like the Kushners and the Trumps merge. This is the kind of filth that you get. So what Kushner's done, and Judd puts it this way, quote, "Kushner's pulled off one of the most brazenly corrupt and successful schemes in U.S. history." Here's how Judd reports it. Shortly after Trump's inauguration, Kushner sought to create a personal relationship with MBS. In March 2017, now notice the date, I'm adding this, that's a year before this brutal murder and dismemberment. In March 2017, Kushner hosted MBS in the White House's state dining room. In the months that followed, Kushner and MBS consulted with one another frequently in private calls. Kushner successfully pushed Trump to make Saudi Arabia the first country Trump, visited as president over objections from other senior administration officials, including former Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and Defense Secretary Jim Mattis. Now, as far as, that's end quote from Judd, as far as the oil asshole Rex Tillerson, remember him? Do you remember Rex Tillerson? ExxonMobil CEO, Jesus Christ. And the defense secretary, Jim Mattis, former combat commander, who eventually came to the point that he was dealing with a fucking madman, Trump. Anyway, so Kushner traveled to Saudi Arabia in the fall of 2017 to meet with MBS there. And according to reports, while he was there, Kushner and MBS stayed up until nearly 4 a.m. several nights swapping stories and planning strategy. And then MBS showed up in D.C. again in March 2018, and Kushner attended several dinners with MBS and other Saudi officials. You talk about an alliance between an Orthodox Jew and an Orthodox, well, much stronger than Orthodox Muslim. I mean, the royal family in Saudi Arabia has a responsibility of maintaining the two holiest sites in Islam, Mecca and Medina, like ultra Orthodox Muslims. And then the Orthodox Jew, Kushner. And by that time, Kushner was communicating with MBS via the encrypted messaging service owned by Facebook, WhatsApp. And according to the New York Times, quote, the two men were on a first-name basis calling each other Jared and Mohammed in text messages and phone calls, end quote. Oh, isn't that just so, touchy-feely asshole buddy. Yeah. Hey, Mohammed. Hey, Jared. And according to the Washington Post, John Kelly, former White House chief of staff, until he realized, he admitted during an intelligence briefing that, quote, virtually all of the conversations that U.S. officials had with the Saudis on certain sensitive matters occurred between Kushner, the slumlord punk, and MBS, the murderous son of a bitch, one of the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. How's that? U.S. Saudi policy made by a slumlord little prick and one of the sons in the Saudi royal family, the crown prince. As soon as the old man dies, he gets to be king. Jesus Christ. So, according to Judd, Kushner's friendly conversations with the crown prince continued even after Khashoggi's death. And Kushner, quote, offered the crown prince advice about how to weather the storm, end quote. You fucking little bastard, Kushner. How about if your father would have been killed and dismembered by the Saudis? Would you then have given advice to MBS about how to weather the storm? You murderous little son of a bitch, you're as bad as he is. All of you Trumps, whether you are part of the family or married in, you're scum. You really, really are. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.